Right, we would need to pick up and crack on. So we would, if you've just joined us, we were having a conversation about how the strategy will affect various people representing different areas of road safety. Rob, I can see that you're there, Rob Gilligan. So as the numbers swell rapidly, which is excellent news, and people are coming back in.
Good.
I know you are no longer sort of operational roads policing, but what do you see as being the thing that might change at the beginning of a shift briefing that the strategy will bring, that roads policing will do differently from what it did before?
Well, I think it's probably fair to say, James, that roads policing has been something of a poor relation. It's been a nice to have, not an absolute necessity to have throughout the UK. And that obviously varies massively from force to force. I think I'm really interested in what the new roads policing innovation programme looks like, and I know Commander Gordon spoke briefly about that this morning. So that will be quite interesting. I think we are still, I still say we, but policing needs to invest more in training. We need to improve the gathering of Stats 19 data and the awareness of what that actually means to frontline officers, and we also need to appreciate the challenges that frontline officers face in collating that data at the roadside under incredibly difficult conditions. So we need to get that right first before we can move forward. I think there's been a lack of training around roads policing in general. I think the certain entry routes to the policing profession have perhaps disregarded that within the initial training syllabus. So I think that there's a long way to go. I don't think we'll see anything different at the start of the shift, as you phrased it at the moment. And of course, this again is against this sort of backdrop of chronic underfunding and uncertainty of what the national picture of policing and therefore roads policing is going to look like moving forward. So there's a lot of work to do. There's some really good stuff in the strategy. Seatbelt penalty points being, one that I'm really keen on. Having run the AccuSensus camera trial when I was at National Highways, we know that is a huge problem. So there's lots of really good stuff in there. There's lots of concerning stuff. Things around pre-charge and post-charge bail concern me. Innocent until proven guilty is the sort of bedrock of our criminal justice system. So there's lots of stuff in there. And as I alluded to earlier, I welcome the Transport Committee that are going to try and put some meat on the bones for us here. But certainly an interesting time. Hopefully a time of opportunity for roads policing within the UK.
You've mentioned the seatbelts very briefly because I'll try and keep us back on time. Have you seen how it works in Northern Ireland? Because there is a penalty point system for seatbelt non-use there, isn't there? And I assume that's been there some while and works.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. I haven't studied it in any great detail, but I think it's one of those areas where we know there are now a technological way that we can focus on one of the fatal 5 offences. We know from deploying the AccuSensus cameras that this is a real issue, and we know it's we have a way to streamline the process of dealing with these offences and allowing warranted officers to focus on issues such as drink drive, where we actually need an officer intervention. So policing needs to embrace these new technologies. It needs to rethink its relationship with the private sector. I don't think being in an organisation that needs to make a profit and having a desire to reduce KSIs or mutually opposing. I think the two can work in tandem, and I think that relationship needs to be strengthened.
Well, let me just give the last word then to John Paul Doherty on that. Your perspective on that, because I assume you do need to make a profit from the area that you're in. So comment on partnerships and your role future wise to make the best use of the strategy.
No, it's a really good point, and I was nodding along there about that particular issue. It's something that needs some careful management. And listen, when we get awarded work or tender for work, sometimes it's a minimum viable product mindset, isn't it? Sometimes you're thinking, well, what can I do to meet the client's brief? You know, stay compliant and deliver the contract, deliver the clauses that are present. And I think that's sometimes the challenge we have, where we have a policy or a strategy document that sets a vision for the future, sets things in motion, but then that doesn't travel down into the standards, which are often quoted, or the guidance or the procedures that are quoted in a contract, and then, you know, people feel that like they need to work to those rules, and there isn't any wiggle room for anyone to exceed those minimum requirements. And I think that's I struggle with some of the work we do, where we try and aspire to meet the aims of the policy and the aims of the strategy, but get pushed back by the commercial situations. So it's about two things for me. Sometimes it's about outcome focused contracts, you know, achieving an outcome rather than how you get there, but it's also about the standards we have as well, and making sure that they align with the policies we have. And that's why things like the setting local speed limits is a step forward, because that's a first push into that. In my mind, that's a first push into that area. But yeah, it's absolutely a challenge.
You're on mute, James. We can't hear you.
Thank you very much, John Paul. Thanks to Heidi and Rob and Ross for your contribution. I'm sorry that there was a little bit of technical difficulty during that conversation, but we will draw that to a close. Thank you very much. I'd like to bring in Tanya now, who will be running the next session. And I think you have some, but not all, of your guests, Tanya. So if you would like to pick up and begin your session about governance and who owns delivery, I believe that Paul and George are there with you, and I will chase up Joy and Philip whilst you're having your conversation. So over to you, Tanya Fosdick.
You're muted, Tanya.
School girl error. Right, let's start then. Yes, obviously there have been a few technical issues, so hopefully the other presenters will be able to join us shortly. But let's start with some introductions from those who are in the room. And as Paul, you've just spoken, shall we go to you first? And if you could just give us a brief introduction.
If you like. Yeah, Paul Copeland. I work for East Riding of Yorkshire Council, where my main responsibility is road safety engineering and programmed maintenance, which is the stuff you do so you don't get potholes. The difference is important. I also chair the Road Safety or Traffic and Safety Working Group on behalf of ADEPT, and I've been involved in various bits with the DFT, such as Stats 19, Road Safety Delivery Group, which I'm not quite sure what's happened with at the moment. Maybe that's becoming the panel. And I've been around a long time. I've done quite a lot.
Thanks. And George.
Good afternoon, or good morning rather.
Good morning,
it's been a long one. Good morning, everybody. I'm George Henry. I'm head of unit for road safety and policy at Transport Scotland Scottish Government. So I was responsible for the development of our road safety framework to 2030. I chair the operational partnership group, which is the second tier of governance within our framework, and I oversee all of the kind of road safety delivery, all of road policy now, all the publicity and education work through Road Safety Scotland. And I don't know what I've done in a previous life, but I've just been given roadworks policy to add to that kind of bow. So yes, it's a fun-filled days in Scotland at the moment with a lot going on.
Sounds like it. I believe Nicola Marshall, who is one of our other speakers, is on the call. Could Steve or James, could you allow her microphone and camera to be turned on, please? And I think we're still missing Joy and Philip. So to see if
I've just heard Philip's going to be 10 minutes late. I will certainly get Nicola available. 1 second.
Nicola
Nicola
Marshall.
Marshall and Nicola, you should now be a presenter. You're very
Wow, it's like
welcome.
the golden ticket. Thank you very much. Thanks. Yeah, so I'm Nicola Marshall. I'm the Director of Active Lives and Safer Roads for South Yorkshire Mayoral Combined Authority. So my role has 3 elements to it. One is walking, wheeling and cycling and all the policy and capital and transformational delivery on that. The second is the lead for the Safer Roads Partnership, which I think we'll probably spend quite a bit of time talking about now. And the third is the lead for the Mayor's manifesto commitment around sport and physical activity. So I guess it's quite that mix of how do you create a sort of systems change approach and a physical environment which supports healthy and safe behaviours. But I'm still I'm only a year into the road safety world.
Brilliant, thank you. So we've got local, we've got regional, we've got national representation here. So I think we can have a really good conversation about this topic, which is governance and who's going to own delivery on the road safety strategy. So we have got lots of questions that I'd like to cover, and obviously I'll be keeping an eye on the chat and see what we come up with. But so let's dive in. So the National Road Safety Strategy is setting ambitious casualty reduction targets. We've talked about quite a lot of that this morning. Delivery means it's going to have to happen locally. So where, in your view, and we have touched upon it a little bit earlier, but I think, you know, kind of from these different local, regional and national perspectives, where does ultimate accountability sit for achieving these outcomes in your area? Paul, I'm going to start actually at the local level, and I know you've got views on this, so I'm going to come to you first.
Yeah, at the moment, we've got a very good basic national road safety strategy with a national target. We don't yet know how DFT see that shaking down locally. To look back historically, we had a national target which was effectively broken down locally. So there's a national target. You've got to achieve that in your area so that it'll happen nationally. 65% reduction in KSIs with no more money. My local authority has says, sorry, that's not possible. It's very desirable, but it's simply not something we can deliver that easily. But we don't yet have a board. We don't yet have a panel. We don't know quite how it's planned to work. We're still awaiting speed limit guidance, camera guidance, Manual for Streets 3, etc. Once all those things are in place and we have the tools, we will be able to do our bit. But I'm fortunate, I wear both hats, as I've said, program maintenance and road safety engineering. But I know where the priorities are locally. From our combined authority, I've been given money for maintenance. I have not been given money for road safety because at the moment, we've got a 15-year backlog of maintenance. It's only getting worse. We're running to go backwards. It's going to be a challenge to balance that out.
And Nicholas, I'm coming to you kind of almost that level above at the combined authority. How do you see accountability? Because obviously you're looking up and down.
Very much in the middle of a sandwich. Yeah, so I think it's a really interesting time in terms of governance and accountability across a whole range of things in transport and other things. So we are a mayoral combined authority. We are just we're one of the trailblazers behind a couple of others. So we enter into our integrated settlement from April, so from a couple of weeks' time. And as part of that, there are some really tough targets being negotiated literally as we speak this morning with DFT around a number of things, including road safety. And the road safety one is a extremely hot topic, something that's been, they are very, very keen. I won't say what the target's going to, that we will be signing up to is, but it's going to be extremely ambitious. I think we have, had good conversations with them about the realism of reaching that. I think when you see some of the published targets, probably people will understand why. And it does feel that there is suddenly a much higher level of scrutiny and accountability than there has been previously, which is obviously a positive thing. I've only been involved in this for a year, but it already feels like it's changed massively just in the last couple of months, which is exciting. I think the accountability point, though, you know, we are not the Highways Authority. You know, as Paul very much know, that's where our local authorities sit. But in terms of funding and accountability, I guess, because certainly for the combined authorities going into integrated settlement, the transport funding is coming into that. We also have the Police and Crime Commissioner powers, who are Deputy Mayor for Police and Crime Commissioners. Actually, in terms of the enforcement side, that is increasingly coming under Simca's remit. So it does feel like there is a big accountability coming on us and on the mayor now, which is positive, but it is feeling it's quite a significant shift.
Great, thank you. So kind of watch this space as it's ever moving. Now, George, obviously you've had the road safety framework for a number of years. So this is, and you know, the national UK strategy is obviously got to sit alongside what you already have in place. How do you feel that that's going to work kind of from an accountability perspective? And how does your strategy feed into the national one and vice versa?
So I think, well, you know, the majority of road safety is kind of devolved, but obviously parts of it clearly aren't in terms of licensing and offencing. So what we've seen from the strategy, delighted that it's out. And you know, obviously we'll be playing our part in not only responding to the public consultations that were out that are out at the moment, but also doing our bit to try and achieve the overall targets, because clearly Scotland is involved in that. Now, whilst we have our own road safety framework, our own targets that are on a different time scale, because ours are to 2030, and we are very much you know, probably further down the line, and you know, have gone through many of the kind of topics that are being discussed in England
I'm just going to interrupt. Could the Warwickshire, I think the Warwickshire Police and Crime Commissioner Philip Seckham just joined, and we've got a bad feedback from that, so that they're not there now. So if they jump on again, I'll ensure that they are muted, or that doesn't happen again. Back to you. Sorry, George. Sorry, Tina. Sorry, everyone.
No worries at all. I've got a bit of a chest infection and my voice sounds bad enough, but it went to new levels there. But yeah, so yeah, I think that, you know, if you look at the strategy overall, what we found is that naturally we couldn't do it on our own. You need to empower all your partners. So it's not just what's getting delivered locally. There'll be many partners that will be delivering nationally as well. And I think that it's important that leadership and coordination comes from the very top, but that you give people the powers and the autonomy and the resources to do what they need to do. And I think that was a bit that obviously Paul had kind of touched on as well. And I think that's what we found. You know, we're obviously embarking on a midterm review of our road safety framework at the moment. And as I said, we've gone through many of these kind of steps that have already that everyone DFT will be going through at the moment. But I really think that leadership and coordination at that highest level is absolutely fundamental to ensure that everyone, when it gets down to that local level, that know how they're feeding into it. But it's also really important that the local voices are heard, because I think that we've had to listen to our local authority partners, identifying the challenges that they face and try and help them. And one of the prime examples was the kind of safe system training work that we done. You know, we listened, we understood the reservations that they had with meeting challenging targets, and we gave them tools to try and implement the safe system properly. And that's something I think that we're seeing the benefits from now.
Great, thank you, George. I've just seen that Joy has joined, I believe. Are you able to turn your camera on, Joy?
It is on, but obviously you can't
see.
You can't see. Can anybody else see me or not? Or I'll come back out and come. I'm having a bit technical issues, but
no, there you are. I can see you now. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, sorry, there have been a few issues. Lovely to have you. We have started the conversation, but it'd be great if you could just introduce yourself and join the conversation. So yeah, just a quick few words on you.
Yes, I'm Joy Allen. I'm PCC for County Durham and Darlington. I also have a few national roles. Just to mention, the link in between. I'm a joint lead for addictions and substance misuse. and obviously work alongside Philip on the roads police and road safety aspect as well as a sort of commissioning, and just recently doing some work for protect young drivers and also the workplace issues with PACTS, and I sit on the Road Safety Trust board as well. Okay.
Great, thank you. Actually, I'd like to stay with you because I do have a question, and you mentioned commissioning, about kind of commissioning services and influencing policing priorities, sitting on local or national boards, and obviously all of you do that. How do you define your own role in turning national safe system ambitions into concrete funded local activity?
Well, PCC's role, we are obviously the voice of the public, voice of policing, and we hold the chiefs to account for delivering policing services that the public want. So I think this is our really key role. Is many PCCs like myself, I do consult the public on what your priorities are, and we just had our precept people be getting the bills coming through the doors, and it has got my name on it, and you were introduced. I said, actually, it goes over to policing. But as well as asking about the appetite for police and precept, we do ask about what your priorities are. And thankfully, my public are telling me that road safety is a priority, as well as drink and drug driving is a priority. So I'm able to then passport that over to the chief constable to say, right, this is what the public are telling me is important to them. This is the what, you tell me the how you're going to introduce it. So there's opportunities for PCCs who have the responsibility of the budget to really focus where that budget goes. So one of my other roles, PCC's other roles, is to convene partnerships, meetings, commission services, and that includes sort of from community voluntary sector, from victim services, and also challenge. And we work together to align the police and priorities, the Commission of Prevention and Victim Services, and where, as you mentioned, where we can, we use our opportunities for national roles to influence policy and funding to ensure the safe system principles translate into funded, measurable local delivery.
I think Chris Lewis, who works with Philip, is on the call. Does that mean that Philip is here?
It does. That is Philip.
I am here, Tanya.
Brilliant.
Yes,
Good. Again, could you just give us a very quick introduction, and then we'll have all five of the panel members here.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I'm late is I've actually just come directly from our road safety partnership here in Warwickshire. So really pleased to join you all today. Yeah, I mean, we have this commissioning responsibility, and we're trying to make sure that those organisations who we think can contribute to road safety get some funding from us. It's not unlimited funding, of course, and we've got lots of other organisations to support as well, particularly around victims and reoffending and other subjects. So I do think Joy's right. We do have the ability to convene. We have the ability to get access. I've been to the Home Office for meetings. I've been to the Department for Transport for meetings, as has Joy. And we've got access to ministers as well. And I think we are all working very hard on our response to this road safety strategy. But at the same time, I think it's important to talk and engage with those decision makers who are mainly up in London. We take road safety very seriously here. It's a prime point in my police and crime plan. We monitor lots of data. We employ analysts, and we've got a coordinator and a communications officer. So we're doing what we can to highlight to the public, I think, at the moment, the benefits of the strategy, and trying to respond in detail to each of those proposals that are put forward. But by and large, we're very supportive of the strategy, and if anything, it probably hasn't quite gone far enough, particularly with the young drivers and keeping them safeguarded on our roads. But yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing what your participants have to say.
Thank you very much. So we talked quite a bit about partnership, actually, and all five of you are in strong partnership areas. But so I think there's probably lessons to learn for others here, because we do get situations where some partners say, well, look, I'm just responsible for the network and not for the collisions which occur, or we're responsible for enforcement and not engineering. And we've had many years of potential silo working. So how could we have governance change to prevent some of these gaps and overlaps in responsibility, so that we are making sure we're delivering best practice, value for money, and being the most effective? Does anybody have any thoughts on kind of how we ensure that strong partnership working happens at the local level? Joy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, a really key question to how we take all of this forward. I'm not responsible for holding other agencies and partners to account, but I think we have some influence as PCCs, as a convener of some of these partnerships, to ask some questions, and to ask the very questions you have just asked, as how are we going to locally and of course nationally be able to join these dots together to make it effective. So engaging is important. It's understanding the problems and challenges other partners have, particularly at the moment with funding on highways authorities. So we just have to keep going, keep working at it, keep working together. And as long as we've all got the same aims, at the end of the day, I'm sure we can make a big amount of progress.
Thank you. I'm going to come to Nicola and then Joy. I saw you put your hand up, so I'll Nicola first.
Yeah, thanks. So we're just refreshing actually all of our governance arrangements. We're doing some great work with Agilicis on what our sort of strategic action plan should be going forward. And I guess there's a couple of things, isn't it? It feels like very new into the sector still, but because there hasn't been that national strategy, it feels like maybe in some of the local authorities and areas, it's perhaps been a little bit unloved. It hasn't had the priority perhaps it should have done. And so I think there's that real sort of like, what is our North Star? What is the plan that we're all going to now get behind? So we're doing a very kind of co-design, collaborative piece with all of our partners and Agilicis to create what that strategic action plan is. We decided not to say it's a strategy because that would just, we've already got an overall strategy. We don't have the action plan. So that's what we're doing now. And I think once we've got that in place, we're now reviewing the governance. I don't think we've had governance at a senior enough level. So we haven't had elected members involved, which is really key. Actually, what's been really helpful recently about the strategy, national strategy, is I've been to, I think, 5 audit and overview and scrutiny committees just in the last 2 months to start answering questions, because I've had to say, how are we going to achieve that target? And I said, that is a wild target, we're not going to achieve it. And that has then prompted everyone to say, okay, that feels like an issue. So we are looking at a 3-tier of governance where we have a kind of an overview and scrutiny level, then a sort of strategic direction level, and then an operational level. But I think what's really positive when I compare this to some of my other areas of responsibility, in active travel, we've had to, in effect, design a systemic approach to active travel where we've talked about the infrastructure, the behavioural change, the community engagement. Actually, that exists with the safe system approach, but it just doesn't, even though we adopted it some time ago, I don't think it's been embedded. So we're really saying, how do we embed it and get each of the partners to see their place in the system?
Great, thank you. George may have some views on embedding it, but Joy, I'll come to you because, yeah, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I think it's very much, we've just recently, that was 2 days ago, myself and Philip, we, as the APCC, we hosted a number of practitioners, and Jack Stabler was one of them, around people might be aware of the Road Harm Index and how we can look at the network and where the hotspots are, and particularly what I like, and we don't do in my area, but I'd like to see across the 43 police force areas, they're also doing near misses and non-report, the where you have a shunt and you see the same shunts every day at the same place, but when as a local councillor you go to it, there's not a problem because it's not killed, seriously injured, and on the staff is non-reportable, so it looks like there's no problem on the road, so it does hide that. So one of the things that I would say with that tool is it shows the ability of all partners to come together, because everybody can see where the risk is on the road, and everybody can play a part. So obviously I believe that the the ultimate accountability must sit locally. It's great if you can have named leaders, PCCs and local authorities, and obviously our forces, through the Casualty Reduction Forum, work really well jointly, because delivery happens on our roads, in our communities, and where you've got national governance setting the framework, outcomes have to be owned locally and owned locally by partners, because we've all got our tools and powers. Even just putting, the highways agency plays a vital role. Our marked vehicles can make a difference between perception and what's happening in the area to slow vehicles down to make them safer. Sadly, myself and Philip and our other PCC's colleagues, we've going to be abolished in 2 years' time. However, there's real opportunities for everybody on this call where there's links with the mayoral authorities, who are strategic transport authorities, who I think have recently been given significant sums of money for transport, but they've also, thankfully, the Minister and the Ministry has passported some of the targets to reduce KSIs as part of their programme. So that's a real opportunity. In my area, we don't have a regional partnership, but that's a real opportunity for me locally to work in the next 2 years. And I think the same can go for other people's areas. Other areas like West Yorkshire, Manchester, and probably more recently North Yorkshire, who have got mayoral authorities, are looking to Vision Zero and bringing the key partners together with the tools to make a difference.
Great, thank you. George?
Yeah, thanks, Tanya. I mean, I suppose I don't want to go down a full history lesson here, but clearly we have had our road safety strategy to 2020, and when I joined the team, it was to see that out and then develop the new one. We had 2 tiers of governance, a strategic partnership board and an operational partnership group. And I think that what we wanted to do through the road safety framework to 2030 was raise that profile of road safety again. Within the midterm review of the framework to 2020, it spoke about the safe system and adopting it. And there is a total difference between adopting something or saying you're adopting it and actually embedding it. And that was the one thing that when I joined the team, should I be ashamed to say it? Potentially, but I asked my team, so tell me what's happening on road safety at the local level. And the answers I got back was not sufficient. So therefore, when we developed our road safety framework, we introduced a 3rd tier of governance, which was the kind of local partnership forum. So at the strategic partnership board level, it's chaired by our cabinet secretary for transport. We have the heads of our emergency services. We have elected members who represents local authorities, and we have National Health Service, Public Health Scotland. At that operational level, we have all these people, motoring groups, active travel groups, all your key kind of road safety players. And then we also have other areas of policy across government, which I think is really important, because it's how, our framework is very strategic in the way that it's set up, but it has annual delivery plans. So therefore, that whilst we set national strategy, identify what we need to tackle, those local partnership forums need that guidance to what you should be focusing on. And naturally we need them, because they need to deliver at that local level across multi-partner-led, evidence-based initiatives that meet the safe system and what we want. But we've also looked at key priority groups across that system. We've got an in-depth fatality group that forensically looks at all fatalities, and there's recommendations and countermeasures that then go into those annual delivery plans. So everything that we are doing is evidence-based and going forward. And the other sort of tier of governance that we're looking at or supporting groups is a kind of national safe system data group, so that we will be sharing all that information across the system, whether it be public health data, whether it be police data, or whether it be connected vehicle data, loads of other different bits and pieces that can really kind of feed into that overall system. And that's what's really important. And I think that what that's done is it's empowered people at the local level to feel that they're being listened to, but also being supported in the way that road safety delivery is actually achieving on the ground. And I think that what we've found is we're kind of dedicated funds for local authorities, You know, our safety camera program being fully funded by government, and other aspects of that from at that partnership level. Is what we're now starting to see is actually the safe system being embedded. Now there is a lot of work to be done, and absolutely we might not even see that in the whole lifetime of this framework, you know, of being fully safe system. But we are absolutely pushing as hard as we possibly can, and you know, embedding it. And I mentioned the kind of training program for all partners and practitioners, the development of a safe system manual that tells them how to kind of do their job and gives them best guidance and best practice. All these things have been key to kind of building the foundations to actually start to have that casualty reduction. And whilst I can't give exact numbers at this present moment in time, I'd probably be shot if that was the case. But the what we are going to be publishing in the coming months is significant reductions in fatal, serious, as well as slights. And then I think that is all that hard work that we've put into building those foundations, we're maybe starting to see the benefits from.
Brilliant, thank you. I do think that Westminster has a lot to learn from your approach and what you've experienced over the years. And I think hearing several times in this conversation and in earlier ones today, the importance of an action plan to sit alongside the strategy of what is going to be done by whom and by when, I think is massively important. Paul?
Yeah, we're in that interesting transition phase. We've had a mayor for a few months. We have a PCC who is going to be abolished in the near future. We're just at that writing everything stage. Of course, the road safety strategy is going to help, but it's being driven by our Safer Roads Partnership at the moment. Our Safer Roads Partnership has adopted, with political support, Vision Zero. We have had to explain it quite carefully as vision, because everybody gets very scared. Everybody agrees. But anyway, we're looking into an interesting future. And I think a lot of authorities are going to find themselves in this boat. If I'm a bit old fashioned, I say we're at that forming stage. Everybody's finding out where they're going to be. We're going to end up with a police force, which is shared between two combined authorities. That's going to add a layer of complication. The future for everybody that's going through this process, the more people you can get in the room from the local area, from the region, sub-region, how you set up, does help. But we always need to keep sight of the fact the legal duty sits on the local authority, the highway authority. So it's inherent that we must get that partnership up and running, because we cannot deliver it from a local authority point of view. It has to involve everybody. I'm almost jumping ahead of question, Tanya, so I slightly apologise. Our Safer Roads Partnership, very good. Police are there, local authorities are there, fire and rescue are there. Health, education and voluntary sector. Oh dear, not so well represented. And I'm not quite sure yet how we're going to get them there, because with the road safety strategy, we've got DFT, we need the Home Office, we need the Department for Health and everything else. We need the Treasury. We maybe need environment. We definitely need the voluntary groups. We need education. We're still not quite sure how we're going to nail all that together to form a coherent whole. And they probably can't all be in one room at the same time, because there's going to be too many people.
Thank you. That's interesting, and I think yes, you have jumped along a little bit, but that's, yeah, I think it's an interesting time. How do we learn from who have got some of these wider partners in the room? So I mean, most partnerships have got police, highways authorities, fire and rescue, national highways. Who else does have health, education, and the voluntary sector within their road safety partnership or within their road safety plan? George, how have you got these organisations on board?
I think it's when we wrote the framework, I think historically, for the years that I've been involved in road safety, it was always about what road safety could do for all these other areas. So when we drafted our road safety framework, we had them all develop it alongside us. So they all played their part. And it was very much a case of, no, this is going to be a two-way street going forward. So it's not about what we're only going to be doing for you, it's about what you're going to be doing for us. And I think that, you know, where it's been really supported, and I've said this in many kind of forums, our Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Fiona Hislop, who sadly is retiring before the, you know, at before the election, has been unbelievable in having her Cabinet Secretary for Health or Justice, or when we had an active travel minister at a point, of all being involved. So right across that national areas of government, they've all been there. When you come down at the kind of strategic partnership board level and operational partnership groups side of things, I think that these other areas around kind of health, education, have been really kind of supportive and want to be involved. I think from a public health perspective, we absolutely know that prevention is better than treatment, and that is exactly where the kind of view is on that. We've even had public health colleagues reviewing road safety initiatives and measures, so they're very, very proactive in Scotland. And I think that if you get the governance structure right and you have them round the table, that I know that you need to manage numbers, Paul, but it's having the right people round the table that can make the decisions, which is really important. And I think that that's what's kind of being filtered through from our perspective. It works in practice because everybody's accountable. Those annual delivery plans, clear actions, clear commitments that everybody signs up to, kind of puts you in that the kind of non-talking shop kind of meetings that you really want to kind of achieve. I think that, you know, when you look at overall performance, our governance structure was only meeting twice a year when things were okay, and we've pulled it out to 4 times a year now, because again, Cabinet Secretary asked for that to happen because we needed to make progress, and we needed everyone to be accountable right across all areas of the system. It takes time, and it will take time. You know, DFT have obviously just released their strategy, and there's a lot of kind of discussions, and there's a lot of work going on in terms of consultations. But I think that, you know, that group that you'd mentioned that wasn't meeting, the roads delivery group, I think I used to sit on that as well, or the right terminology for it. I maybe got it wrong, so apologies if I have. But I think that when that kind of sets up and seeing that all countries being involved in it as well, I think will be vitally important. I think that what I see is that there is a lot of discussions going on across government at ministerial and official level now. And I think that we'll only reap the benefits of that. But again, it needs to be kind of adequately resourced, financed to allow people to kind of be able to deliver.
We'll come on to that in a little bit, but I do like that concept of what road safety can do for others. I think that's a really important way of getting buy-in. Philip.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just on the question is what we're doing locally. We have a strategic board, which is the one I attended today. Then there's an ops group that under that works, meets more often, and then we have a task and finish groups. And we've just done one coming to a conclusion on speed cameras and locations and that sort of thing. So you need to get into the detail rather than just strategy. We have a full-time coordinator and comms and other staff. In our part of the world, we've got 6 motorways. So we absolutely need national highways to and some big A roads as well. So we need national highways to be very much part of it, which they are most of the time. We've got public health, and we've got Break. Break is obviously a charity that speaks up for all sorts of victims, and I always think it's important that the victim's voice must always be heard. That is normally the family, particularly with fatalities. Ambulance are on our board, but probably not the wider NHS. So work to be done. I do think, as I think it was Paul said earlier on, you don't want to be too big. You're going to make too much progress. So I think we've got about the right size, and we're all signed up to a single plan, and we've now got to get on and implement it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. A couple of you have talked about data, and obviously, that's very close to my heart. So obviously, road safety depends on data sharing and joint analysis and co-commissioning of research. So what powers or levers do you think you currently lack that could stop you from pushing an integrated approach as effectively as you would like? Thinking about data. Oh, Paul, that was so quick.
So many bits of. We get Stats 19. Stats 19 is good as far as it goes. We all know its limitations and its pros and cons. It is at least consistent. It is, of course, only injury collisions that get reported to the police and then recorded. So we know it's a sample. There's other data that could be made available. I'd love a national IRAP or similar because then, again, consistent risk rating across the whole country. One of the things some of us have been talking about is we know we have issues with sat-navs. We know we have issues with people being target focused and forgetting that sometimes you have to give way. There are not engineering solutions to that, so there needs to be a technical solution using some data and providing information to people in their connected vehicles. Other powers and levers, yeah, of course, as has already mentioned, I want money, I want some staff, and I'd like some time. We do have a bit of time at the moment because we are awaiting all of those guidance, guidelines, secondary legislation, etc. They're going to be a while coming because there's going to have to be a consultation process. But again, I'm an engineer. I need my technical stuff. And for me, one of the key phrases in Manual for Streets 3 is, if you're a local authority, start here. Because in the past, most highways authorities have gone, we'll look at design manual for roads and bridges, and only when we cannot apply that will we move to manual for streets. That's going to be the other way around. That will help with road safety, but it does also bring in the links of the other things we mustn't forget about, which is active travel, community severance, place function over space function. Quite how we marry all those up is going to be a challenge, and that's what I'm hoping the guidance that's coming out and the input we can have to creating it will enable something that will hang everything together.
Joy.
The gaps around data sharing, I think we do need stronger powers and to mandate collaboration. We've touched upon there is certain partners regularly come around the table, and then we have got missing partners who aren't there, but their insights and data will be very valuable. We talked about the SATS 19, and we do need to share data in real time. And I think, again, touching on the road harm index, I think they're using information more in real time, but also checking it against the SATS 19 as well. And align the commissioning across agencies. I think if you've got the data in front of you and it's shared, we can then understand, like, adopt a problem-solving approach and get buy-in, because you can show where your hotspots are, where your interventions may help, and hopefully you can then present, and as we've talked about from Scotland, you can show the impact on reducing killed and seriously injured, and the data gives you that important information. So yes, we've got it there, but it's a bit clunky. I think we can do a little bit more rapid and more, flexible to give us real-time data. Would be fantastic if we could do that.
Completely agree, and connections between those different data sources is really, really important. George.
Yeah, that was something I was just going to touch on, Tanya. I mean, obviously through, I think we've got 32 local authorities in Scotland. We've got a number of partners all around the table, all probably looking for something slightly different at certain times in terms of what that data looks like and how they're going to use it. And then I know Paul probably can agree with this. You've got different authorities at different levels who have different types of resources in terms of analytical expertise or otherwise, or needed support. And I think that's where we wanted to make sure that our governance structure supported everyone through that. So, regardless of what level of the 3 tiers of governance it sits on, or whether it's key priority groups, that it's important to identify, you know, what data gaps are there, what needs to be used, what is being used at this present moment in time, what do people actually need. And what we've done is tried to embark on, if we can get that data nationally and kind of aggregate it down at a kind of local level for people, then it makes them better informed in terms of how they kind of take things forward from there. So it's kind of been it's going to take time. I think that because there is so much data available, you have so many companies now that are there trying to sell you that data. And I think that what we kind of had to do is kind of try and grab hold of that to ensure that all areas, even government, even within the Roads Directorate, within Transport Scotland, you've got the Safety Camera Programme Office buying some data, you've got asset management buying some data and various different bits and pieces, and not looking at what's there. So I think that's why, you know, the overall aspiration to have kind of all that data gathered. You know, I touched on the public health data coming. The insurance industry is the next one on my kind of hit list to be providing anonymised data for us so that we can better understand what's happening. But I think that the more and more, particularly from a UK government perspective, the more and more that we can get vehicle information and telematics information is going to be key to see how people are kind of behaving on our roads going forward. Because, you know, I joined the kind of last session just at the end there, and when Rob was talking about distracted driver technology and the amount of people not wearing seat belts, it's absolutely frightening. So there's a lot we can learn from using data in the correct way and sharing that and making sure that, you know, we're not doing things 32 times and costing us 32 times the money as well.
Yeah, I think that's really important, that, you know, it's not fragmented or repeated, and that actually it all comes together. Okay, we've touched a few times on funding and thinking about fragmentation, and, you know, we have lots of different budgets, she says, for road safety. You know, we have camera partnerships who can operate with the NDORS funding. We have local authority engineering budgets. We have health budgets, national grants. Should someone locally be responsible for a single transport road safety budget? And if so, who? I think I'd like an answer from all of you on this one, but Nicola, I'm going to come to you first.
I think the funding one is a really interesting one, and we've talked about this quite a bit, Tanya, over the last few months. From the perspective of a mayoral combined authority, and obviously everyone's at different stages of that, but I think it's coming to everyone eventually, it does feel we're getting into a position now where much more of that funding is coming under one roof. So we've got the Transport for City Regions settlement kicking in from next year, which sounds a huge amount of money for South Yorkshire. It's £1.455 billion, which is a lot of money, but we're paying for an entire tram system renewal from that. We're paying for bus franchising from that, the highways maintenance backlogs, which everyone has from that. So the competition, you know, in quotes, and obviously I have fellow directors, you know, we're all very collegiate, but for that funding is really, really intense. And one of the things I've reflected on, I'm not sure that perhaps, certainly having come from the charity sector previous to this job, that necessarily all the charities and lobby groups have fully clocked on, like, no point talking to DFT, really. If you're one of the places that has a single settlement from April, you need to be lobbying the mayor. That is the person that you need to be focusing on to say this is a real priority. And those decisions really are getting taken, certainly for all of the capital and revenue, in the next sort of 3 to 6 months. And then that will be not locked in fully, but pretty locked in for 5 years. I think that's positive in a way, because essentially it's sort of my responsibility now across that region to say, what should the engineering pipeline be, behavioural change campaigns, and then enforcement activity also sits under our mayor. So I think over time, and then it's going to get complicated in police force changes, but over time it is becoming more combined. But I think there's not fully an understanding in the rest of the country sometimes about how fast that's happening and what a massive difference that makes in terms of accountability.
Gosh, so a couple of very busy months of everybody lobbying you for a slice of that pie then, I guess. George?
Yeah, so we've been very lucky over the last few years that our Cabinet Secretary has got us a road safety budget. That road safety budget's made up of many kind of strands. So you'll have a road safety improvement fund for local authorities from an engineering perspective. You'll have the trunk road casualty reduction team. So our strategic road network has the same kind of level of funding. You've got Road Safety Scotland covering education, publicity, behaviour change campaigns. You'll have the safety camera programme being fully funded from that as well. So that is kind of overseen by the Strategic Partnership Board, basically. So they manage what that road safety budget looks like, what those allocations are, and it's kind of my job to be looking at future forecasting and what we need to get to where we need to get to by 2030, what money and resources do we need to allow us to do that. But I think that, and I wouldn't normally kind of say this thing out loud, but see, if you embed the safe system properly, you don't really need to worry about what your road safety budget is, because if the maintenance teams are doing their bit right and all other bits of roads are doing their bit right, whether it be active travel, even whether it be health and prevention and all the other things that are there, then, you know, we spend a lot more money than what we say that we do in terms of road safety, in terms of that road safety budget, because everything should be road safety led. And I think that that's where the strategy and our framework really needs to kind of has tried to kind of highlight those points, to be, because it's really important that we kind of ensure that the money is being spent correctly as well, because we've had quite large increases, and it's when, particularly at that local level, don't just spend it on what you've done because you've always done it. And it's not a replacement for a local road safety budget. And it does alarm me for Paul's perspective as, well, I've got a maintenance budget, but I don't have a road safety one. So therefore you're kind of robbing for Peter to pay Paul effectively. And that's not a good place to be. So when we've given local authority money, they're already block granted money anyway. So they need to demonstrate that that is not replacing their existing road safety budget. And likewise with all other road safety partners, we've had to kind of have some very open and honest adult conversations about what needs to be delivered and where the challenges are from a kind of financial perspective. But yeah, I think that the highest tier of governance overseeing that and ensuring that it's filtered down to the local level to allow them to deliver is probably the best way to go.
Great, thank you. Joy.
Yeah, I think we all agree that greater transparency and alignment would be helpful if it was achieved through a pooled budget or a coordinated local road safety budget. You know, up until where we currently are, I would have advocated for PCCs to be that conduit, because it's in our title, we are commissioners, so we get money in, but we give money out. And I think that's a key part where we have a convening role. You get the people around the table, and that's one of our sort of raison d'etre. That's what we exist to do. So we're currently well placed to oversee this, working in partnership with local authorities and partner agencies. But as Nicola said, I think the new world is that where you've got them, where you can share best practice of what's happening in Manchester or West Yorkshire. There's people further on down in that role, in that remit, than what others are. And I know I'm making representations in the North East, because they've got their priorities are looking at sustainable transport. So it's the walking and cycle aspect. But I think it was the Road Safety Trust or UK Road did a survey. And the reason why people don't want to cycle or walk is because they feel unsafe, or the roads are dangerous, or the driving's dangerous. So by tackling what we want to do in relation to KSIs, it gives them and delivers the sustainable agenda. And again, as Nicola said, there's a lot of money going in for the infrastructure. But if we could top slice that, put it round a table, you can do an awful lot. Once you see, you do definitely need to have the data. But I think a pooled budget always brings people around the data. And as PCCs, you might be aware that we've been making representation. I think it was led by Simon Foster from Westmates about keeping fines, the budget, or even if we've got 50% of the fines, to invest in local road safety education engineering opportunities. So that rather than do the road safety intervention, the enforcement, and the money goes directly to the Treasury, I think we need to make more representation to invest back into our locality where the action's being taken and where the targets will be met.
Absolutely, and I think it's such an important. You were saying there about kind of the adjacent ambitions, policy pieces of things like active travel, but also kind of maintenance, as we've touched upon. All of these are contributing to road safety, so we have to work out how we can get the best value out of our funding and make sure that these interventions are supporting these joint agenda. Paul.
I'm delighted to say that Nicola, George and Joy have covered all my points, so I have nothing more to say.
Oh, okay. I will come to Chris, but it looks like he's been muted and his camera's turned off. So I'm hoping that somebody from Project Edward can turn him back on. Nicola's also in the same boat.
That's weird. I will certainly do my best. Hold on. Allow mic, it says. And allow camera.
In the meantime, then I'll stick in a few words about fines.
We're there.
I prefer to see fines increased so that diversion costs can be increased rather than retaining fines locally, because that leads to certain degrees of publicity which aren't helpful.
Okay, yeah, and that's a whole other debate. But yeah, interesting. Philip, you're back now.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry about it. Just went dead. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Funding. Of course, I agree with everything everybody has said. That we do need, a more categorised and sort of resilient form of funding for all road safety. I think it should come through one body. Interestingly, with local government reform and the police reform and the restructuring of police, everything is almost as unclear as mud at the moment as to what's going to happen. But I think in the meantime, we can locally cement and get our existing partnerships going. For example, in our part of the world, we don't know how many unitaries we're going to get. So we may have more than one highway authority. So there's going to be lots of planning and work and monitoring of where all this is going. And of course, the government will be announcing, I hope, local government reorganisation this summer. So we think we're not going to get a mayor here by 2028. We look as though we're going to go into a local authority board. So we have to work very closely with our local upper tier authority, or two of them, whatever it is.
Thank you. So yes, interesting times, very complex, and we've all got really different arrangements. We've got 5 minutes left of this session, so I'm going to pop to our last question that I've shared with panelists earlier, because I think this one is, kind of almost a magic wand question, really. If you could redesign local road safety governance from scratch in your area, what one change would most improve clarity over who owns delivery, and how would you persuade your partners to sign up to it? So if we were doing this thing from scratch, where would we begin and what would we do? Shall I pick on you in turn? I'm going to start with Paul.
I think I'd nick George's model, frankly. Okay. Driven from the top all the way down in a coordinated manner. I'll have some of that, please.
Okay, that's great. Joy.
Yes, I do always like to see what our neighbours are doing, and there's some really good stuff there. And I agree, if you get a minister that gets behind it, and like say a parliament where you can change things very quickly, that's fantastic. But in addition to that, I think having a single named local lead accountable for road safety deliveries would be really helpful, supported by the wider statutory partnership board with shared targets. I think the clarity of leadership drives accountability and results, and I think we've touched upon this. We've seen that where you've got a politician leading the charge, it can unlock a lot of like say barriers and actually get you over to where you need to be. So I think it's working with the practitioners, the expertise, but the politicians can play a very important role. So we will need to work to our strengths and our abilities to maximise results.
George, I'm going to come to you. If you could do, we're all hailing Scotland, what would you do differently?
Well, yeah, everybody's hailing it, and then I'm going to come up with something that I want it to be better than what it is already. So yeah, probably a wee bit of a challenge here. I mean, I think that I think from a governance perspective, we are in a decent place. I think that we have all the relevant partners around the table and feeding in, and it's about explaining to them why they're there, and them understanding why they're there, and showing what benefit they are bringing. And I think that those, again, coming back to these multi-partner-led, evidence-based delivery plans, kind of allows them to see how they're fitting into that kind of wider structure and programme. How could we improve it in Scotland? Well, we could improve government as a whole. We're not working off yearly budgets for a start, even although we've got future aspirations or kind of future forecasting, but you never know what money you've got until you've actually got it. So I think that, you know, kind of future years of funding, particularly at that local level, would absolutely help delivery, and it would allow them to plan and resource correctly. And one thing I think that we should be looking at is how, again, I've mentioned 32 local authorities, 32 probably doing 32 levels of procurement and all the rest of it. So the one thing that I am kind of consciously looking at is, from these kind of local partnership forums, which are split into 3 and made up of 32 local authorities, you know, into each of the regional areas almost, is how we can deliver better on the ground, because we're putting more money to them, we're putting more pressure on them, we're asking them to do more across a number of levels, whether it be 20 mile per hour road safety improvement fund, active travel, bus partnership funding. All these things all have an impact, because a lot of the time it can be the one team that's delivering on that. So again, it's that assessment of resources and identifying, like, how can we squeeze more out, but in the right areas? And I think that that's something that I've been conscious of. So if I had to do one thing, it would probably try and help them with a bit more of a regional procurement model that would help them deliver better and support their resourcing.
Great, thank you, George. You're able to unmute. There you go.
Yeah, sorry. Just quickly, I mean, I think we're about to launch a giant experiment on this in the mayoral authorities with the integrated settlements, because we're about to get some extremely ambitious targets for delivery by 2029, which is just 3 years' time. I will be the director every 6 months attending DFT to explain how the progress that we're making. So I will be that, in effect, a kind of single lead for DFT, but of course it's based on that partnership. And I think it will just be fascinating to see that is going to, I think, drive a different set of behaviours and accountabilities across the system for those particular authorities, kind of, I guess, as a bit of a pilot for others. Slightly terrifying being the one that's that's going to be fronting that up, to be honest. But hopefully it will really galvanise some progress.
Good luck. And Philip.
Yeah, thank you. Right, we actually rebuilt and re-established our road safety partnership 5 or 6 years ago, so we've probably been through this exercise. I wouldn't say we've got it perfect, but I think we're moving in the right direction. So, being very brief, the one thing we all need to do is to raise road safety as an issue with the public. And that is the court of public opinion drives politicians' decisions, which then affects funding. And I think we need to really raise road safety more than it has been. Lots of really good work going on. And we need to challenge our national politicians and decision makers to tell them that our residents and our communities are concerned about road safety. And I think that could well bring more money and more effort into it all. Finally, I would like to see it a statutory duty on all public sector bodies that road safety is a statutory duty going forward.
What a great way to end. Thank you so much, Philip. Yeah, completely echo those thoughts. Thank you all. I think that's been a really interesting session. I'm now going to hand back to James. I think we've got a break now, haven't we? But I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Tanya, and thank you, everybody. Yes, we are now going to break, and the next session will be on post-crash response, chaired by Dan Quinn. So if you've ordered the Agilicis mobile buffet, please stay in your place and it'll be delivered to you. Otherwise, make your own arrangements, and we'll see you again at 1 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.